Call it the perfect solar storm. This is Corey Powell here. Experts warn that a massive solar storm is set to erupt right here, and the devastation could total as much as $2 trillion. Corey Powell, editor-at-large, Discover magazine. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Let's get the first image up, if we could, the one that shows planet Earth relative to the surface of the sun. Because planet Earth is way down here in the bottom left-hand corner,
right,
and the sun is massive. How do we know? Here is right here, right?
Right.
Earth to scale,
there's
that little
that
thing.
Earth. So
how come folks like you are so worried about solar flares in 2013?
Well, so we know from watching the sun for hundreds of years, the sun goes through an 11-year cycle, being relatively quiet, very active and violent. 2013 is the peak of that 11-year cycle. So we know, almost like clockwork, every 11 years you go through a bad period, and each 11 years, as we have more technology, we have more satellites, we depend more on our electrical infrastructure, we're more vulnerable.
If we get hit with a solar flare, what does that do to us? What does it do to our technology? What does it do to our civilization?
Right. So what you're looking at here, this is million-degree plasma coming out of the sun. Million degree. Coming out at 300 to 500 miles per second. It travels through space, it hits the Earth, and actually the biggest thing that it does is it's all magnetized. The Earth is kind of a magnet. It wiggles everything, and that makes electrical currents that go crazy everywhere. So it can lead to blackouts, it can overload your satellites, it can fry radio transmissions and GPS transmissions. That's happened on a small scale before.
Talk about the $1 trillion in damage. 1859, apparently Earth was hit by a doozy. But that was long before we had the technology that we do today.
Exactly. So
is that even a possibility if you go back 150 years ago and think that we could be hit again like that with no warning?
We actually know that happens. You can go back and look through, you look through glaciers, and glaciers record different times in the past when these things happened. Actually, the evidence of it gets buried in the ice. So we know this happens every 300, 500 years. So the last one was 150 years ago. It could happen 100 years from now. It could also happen tomorrow. And the one, these flares, believe it or not, that one's actually not so bad. That's one.
That's an okay one.
That's an okay one. That's one that actually didn't cause a whole lot of trouble. The one that happened in 1859 was maybe like 100 times that.
So this is the flare. It comes off the sun right here, and it bursts toward.
Right. So this thing
Mercury.
here, right? This is 30 times the size of the Earth. This is a small one. The one from 1859. This is, think about, there's very little technology back then. It was so intense that telegraphs around the world were sparking and setting off fires.
Really?
Now imagine you do that with your GPS satellites and your cell phones and all the things that we have today. You could have a global blackout.
So we got that to look forward to. Does this keep you up at night, yes or no?
You know what, this kind of flare doesn't, you know what, it keeps me up at night? What keeps me up at night is that I know that sometime in my lifetime, and probably within maybe within the next 10 or 20 years, there is going to be a countrywide blackout. And I don't, we're going to survive it. But imagine hospitals blacked out, transportation shut down, all your computers, all your smartphones shut down. So yeah, that does really worry me.
Be a lead story. Thank you, Corey. Martha.
Joining me now is F. Michael Maloof, former security policy analyst in the Office of the Secretary of Defense and author of the book A Nation Forsaken, EMP, the escalating threat of an American catastrophe. Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
Just to define terms, electromagnetic pulse?
Yeah, it's an intense burst of electromagnetic particles that come descending on down and that can absolutely destroy all of our electronics if they're unprotected.
Isn't, back in the 80s, the northeastern power grid shut down one day and nobody knew why, and it turned out later it was a bunch of particles coming from the sun, as I recall. Yep. Isn't that a kind of a mini example of EMP?
Well, we have a mini EMP could be from a solar burst. We're now going through one of our most intense periods, 11-year cycle of the sun. And NASA has raised all kinds of concerns about that, especially if we were to get a direct hit. They're estimating that the cost could be upwards of $2 trillion, affect about 164 million people, take 4 to 10 years to recover if we get a direct hit.
Wow. And that's basically, it comes out of a sunspot, and so it's like the sun is blowing it out somewhere in that 360 degrees, and if we happen to wander through that.
Exactly. If it comes from approximately the middle of the sun, it could result in a direct hit on Earth. Some of these solar flares can be 2 to 3 times larger than the Earth itself.
Wow. And what would it do?
It will fry your electronics. You see, the United States is a technology-based society, whether it's our internet, our telecommunications. We have very critical infrastructures. They're all dependent upon electronics, the national grid system, our health care, our food and water distribution. All of that could be basically nixed out. We also have automatic control systems which guide our industry, our commerce, our pipelines. Those would be affected. They're highly vulnerable. They're all electronically based, and if they're not protected, the consequences will be astronomical. It would be a catastrophe. It would basically throw us back to the 19th century.
Yeah, but when the electricity goes out, the water goes out, the sanitation systems go out. We couldn't go without very, very long. That's remarkable. F. Michael Maloof, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.